set some of my colleagues, look, no one's blowing you up. You have all your arms and your legs. These are just words, not bullets, and kind of put it all into perspective. And the other thing that serving abroad makes you appreciate is how exceptional this nation is. We have never faced a adversary like the Chinese Communist Party, whose economy is on par with ours, who is stealing our intellectual property left and right, stealing our innovation, and is openly talking about replacing us and building the military capability to do it. When you see Made in America, that's not just a jobs or a union issue, it's a national security issue. And when you see Made in China, put it down. That we have to get our supply chains back. We need to make pharmaceuticals again. We need to have manufacturing again. But this influence scheme and operation that they have going on, it's at the state level, the local level, the national level, and at every element of our society. When we talk about what does the future look like for future generations, that's pretty bleak. And the least I can do is leave it all on the table in terms of what I can get done to deter that and defeat it if necessary. We had a Green Beret that was literally misdiagnosed by a military doctor. Under regulations, you can't sue. He had no recourse for his family. Literally, he had terminal cancer and could have enjoyed his last days. Instead, he worked with me and other legislators to get that law changed. And now, if you go to a military hospital and they mess up, then you can get some kind of compensation for your family. So whether it's from Staff Sergeant Richard Stayskull or others, I mean, that's what keeps me going despite all of the craziness, or those tangible deliveries that we've had for people.
My cousin Thomas was a colonel in the Air Force in Iraq and Afghanistan. I have a cousin right now who's in San Diego, who's a member of the Navy. Do you have a message for young people who are currently serving either in active duty or they're in some branch of the military?
The best way to keep the peace, the best way to prevent war is to be prepared for it, number one. Number two, we have to get strength back into the White House. You can have the best and most trained and well-equipped military in the world, but if our adversaries don't respect and fear the commander-in-chief and their ability to use it, then you're going to see deterrence erode, which is what we're seeing all over the world. But thirdly, directly to your cousins and others, I have yet to come across a veteran, not one, at the VFW halls and the American Legion and even in my own family that says, you know what, I regret serving. I wish I hadn't served. Gosh, that was terrible. No, they look back on it. These World War II veterans who have lived 70 years after their service, whole other lives, they look back on the couple of years that they were a part of literally saving the free world. You can't ever do anything bigger than that.
And that is all we have for you this evening on the Capitol Report. For round-the-clock original coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live and download our NTD mobile app. From the nation's capital, I'm Steve Lance.
See many chemicals and additives in our foods get banned, and that's because RFK Jr. has now been nominated as Secretary of Health and Human Services for the incoming Trump administration. Now remember, RFK Jr. is promoting the idea of Make America Healthy Again. MAHA, it's the new slogan. Well, with this appointment, if he gets confirmed, because he still has to go through Senate confirmation, this will put him in a position to oversee foods, cosmetics, drugs, and pharmaceutical products in the United States. And as part of his plan, RFK Jr. has previously hinted, saying very vividly actually, that some of the chemicals and additives in our food could soon face regulation or be banned. Now, he posted a video called Enough is Enough back in September with a few different household items laid out in front of him, and he explained some of his views on these products. He noted the declining health and life expectancy of Americans, and he pointed to alleged problems with food additives. He focused mostly on tartazine, and in this, probably known better as yellow 5, and he explained how tartazine, yellow 5, went from being a chemical byproduct from the coal industry, used, for example, in like tar in pavements, was later derived from petroleum, to now being used in a large amount of food we buy in stores because of the coloring. He alleged that it's tied to tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, and intestinal injuries. And he noted these negative effects, they've been known for decades. And this is partly why tartazine, yellow 5, is heavily restricted in many countries on Earth. Or even, for example, if they have it, they have to put warning labels on it if they use it. But in the United States, despite all that, it's common. We probably consume it on a regular basis. RFK Jr. then goes on to explain this is just one example, one additive, and we regularly consume a large number of similar chemicals like this. Watch.
I've been picking on tartrazine today, but that's just one of at least 100 chemical poisons that our health agencies allow into our children's food. I can make a video just like this to talk about Red 40, BHA, BHD, potassium bromate, chemical after chemical, and on and on and on. If just one of them can cause all these problems, imagine what they're doing in combination. That has never been studied.
Now, on the food front, RFK Jr. has criticized many additives, many ingredients, and many substances that could be on a long list for his initial actions. He's actually kind of given a layout of what he's planning to do. Now, based on his public statements, the Epoch Times we put together a list explaining some of the first additives that we could very likely see get regulated. Have a look at this. Epoch Times put this together. One of the first ones, high fructose corn syrup. And it notes that during his campaign, Kennedy repeatedly emphasized the risks of high fructose corn syrup, HFCS, the most common sweetener in American processed food. And notes that though approved for use in both the EU, European Union, and the United States, high fructose corn syrup in Europe is used in a modified form called isoglucose, which contains up to 30% fructose, whereas American high fructose corn syrup has 42 to 55% fructose. Now, some of you who live in Latin America, who maybe travel to Latin America, you might have noticed something. Have you ever noticed that if you drink Coca-Cola in Latin America, it oftentimes does not contain high fructose corn syrup? It contains cane sugar. Why is that? It's because a lot of countries ban it. And of course, even in countries that don't ban it, it's different from the one we consume in America. Now, another example is seed oils. Seed oils have kind of become a meme on the web lately. A lot of like health enthusiasts, they're very big on banning seed oils suddenly. These are different, for example, from like olive oil and more traditional things like, butter or ghee or whatever else, right? These are seed oils, things you have to use processes for to extract. Epoch Times notes that Kennedy has repeatedly criticized the wide consumption of processed vegetable oils, also called seed oils. It notes that most seed oils like canola, soybean, corn, sunflower oils, they're approved by FDA and GRAS. It notes that soybean oil is the most commonly consumed oil in the United States, and that currently there is inconclusive evidence to link seed oils with major health risks. Some people argue they're like borderline poisonous. And notes that though some studies have suggested a correlation between popular seed oil usage with cancer, according to a previous investigation by the Epoch Times. And notes here another one is synthetic food dyes. This is something he's been very loud about. Something that is very common in medicines, in normal vegetables even, but especially in processed foods. Epoch Times notes that synthetic food dyes, which include tartrazine, the one he mentioned, that's yellow 5. There's also red 40, red 2, yellow 6, green 3, blue 1, and blue 2. These are not used as prolifically or at all in other countries. In some countries, they're illegal. Now, notice that these food dyes have been linked to behavioral problems like ADHD and cancer. Most food dyes are made from petroleum. Actually, we consume a lot of petroleum products, especially when you get to the the flavoring. Oftentimes, the carrying liquid is going to be a petroleum-based liquid, notably. And also, this makes them cheaper and more durable than the natural colors used in countries like Canada and Australia. In Canada and some other countries, if you buy cereal, instead of consuming something dyed with these chemical dyes, they'll have things made from like carrots or beets and things like that. The normal food products we consume, the normal cereal brands, even some of the candy brands, here they sell us the ones with these chemicals. In Europe and other countries, they sell you ones with natural dyes made from like vegetables. Now, it goes on to list a large number of other chemicals and additives that are found commonly in our food, and the information on how studies have shown their potential harm. I recommend reading this article, by the way, if you're interested. Just as some examples of what they go over: BHA, BHT, they have long chemical names. These are used in chips, crackers, cereals, a lot of other products. And these chemicals that we consume regularly are alleged to affect our immune systems and could cause cancer. There is potassium bromate, which is used in some baked goods and can cause cancer, as well as toxicity in the blood and liver. There's benzoyl peroxide, which is also banned in Europe but legal here in the United States, that's used in flour and milk, oftentimes made for cheeses. It was banned in Europe in the 90s because of concerns it can cause liver damage and poisoning. And it can also break down into a carcinogen. It can cause cancer. Now, look, take this as a whole. And remember, a lot of food on store shelves doesn't just have like one of these products. If you buy most foods, they have a large combination of these chemicals and a long list of other ones I'm not even naming here. Kennedy is listing like 100 of them, right? Now, Kennedy notes that while we do know some of the harmful effects of these products individually, we know that this one causes this problem, that one causes that problem. There aren't even studies on what effects there are when you combine them. And when we buy and eat a lot of these products, we're combining them. We're consuming multiple versions of these things in conjunction with each other. Now, in another video from 2 weeks ago, also about the USDA, Kennedy explained the industry behind many of these chemicals. He's alleging that the reason we consume these things is not just because, the companies are trying to cut corners on cost or whatever. There's an industry behind it, an entire ecosystem, he's alleging. And he noted it even goes into how farms are regulated in ways that encourage the uses of pesticides and chemicals, and into the issues with the approval processes for this. He also explains the alleged corporate interests. Watch this.
The corporate interests have hijacked the USDA's dietary guidelines to make natural, unprocessed foods merely an afterthought. That's one reason why 70% of the American diet now consists of ultra-processed food. We're going to ban the worst agricultural chemicals that are already prohibited in other countries. And we're going to remove conflicts of interest from the USDA dietary panels and commissions.
Now, look, we're going to see how this goes. This is an interesting narrative because this position against, again, food additives, big corporations, the effects on farmers, pesticides, this used to be kind of more like the hippie left that was on this stuff. Go to your health food store and tell me who's working there. Oftentimes, the organic food folks, the ones against chemicals in food and pesticides on farms, and the ones kind of talking about the problems with American food versus what they sell in Europe and Canada and Australia, it's usually the left. There's been an interesting shift in this country now where a lot of the media criticizing RFK Jr. for this is actually among that group of media, right, on the left. Now, one argument is they argue that Kennedy is a conspiracy theorist. He notes that some of his ideas about this are maybe too extreme. They allege, I'm just telling what they say, they talk that he's an anti-vaxxer. He has noted he's not anti-vaccine, but he doesn't believe in the vaccine regimens and some of the chemicals used in them and the possible effects of them. He's not saying he's going to ban them, but he does say that he will maybe change the schedules for kids, for example. He's also talking about going after things like like fluoride in drinking water. And now, a lot of the media has been criticizing him for this. The other side of the argument is that a lot of these media get a lot of money from those industries. A lot of those media, folks, some of their biggest advertisers are drug companies and companies along these lines. And so you could say maybe there's a possible conflict of interest. But I would say also that because of COVID-19 and the narratives around the vaccine, 2019, 2020, the public debate in this country around medicines and chemicals and everything, ironically, it's become more conservatives at the forefront of pushing against this. And so it's become a kind of a politicized issue. But look, on this, of course, we'll see where this thing goes. It could be possible, though. We actually could see a lot of products get changed on store shelves. It is not likely they're going to ban these. The likely effect is we'll see changes similar to what happens in Europe and other countries, where a lot of the companies that sell these products, they already have alternative products for countries where the chemicals we consume are banned. A lot of the cereal products we consume, they have different products they sell in the US than what they sell in Europe. And for example, it would not be hard for them just to switch those out because they already have them. They just don't sell them to us. A lot of candy products, a lot of other things, they already have different versions they sell to other countries because we consume things that are illegal in those countries. Now, we'll of course have to see how this goes, once the upcoming Trump administration gets confirmed, but it is possible we could see a lot of food products get changed on store shelves. And overall, there's likely going to be a big shake-up in the connected industries. Now, in other news, the Trump transition team is allegedly putting together a list of military officers at the Pentagon who could lose their jobs. I'll be talking more about this after we come back from a quick break, so don't go anywhere.